We're joined by Mark Kagan. He is a former U.S. intelligence analyst who is an expert on government, military, and Middle East affairs. Mark, I think any reasonable human being would look at that and just be sickened by it. Talk to me about their training methods. Why children?
Why children? Because when you get them young, you can mold them in the fashion that you want, and by the time they grow up, that's the only life they know. The Taliban, which incidentally in Arabic means students, recruited orphan boys from the refugee camps in Pakistan during the Afghani war and raised them in their camps and in their madrasas, their religious schools, and they make up a good portion of today's Taliban. And as we know, they are thoroughly indoctrinated and inculcated, and if you will, brainwashed in terms of their ideology. The same with these children, and it's been the same anywhere else where children have been recruited for to become soldiers, particularly in Africa. And there are all sorts of sayings in various languages and cultures where if you teach a child, they'll grow up to be something. So if you want to have someone who is exactly the way you want them to be and are completely fanatic, if you will, about your views and the ideology and the religion, or your view of religion, recruit them young, bring them up isolated from the rest of the population, and teach them that killing is good as long as it's the other or the infidel.
It's interesting. I've read some accounts from child soldiers in Liberia and talking about what they did, almost kind of their eyes almost deadened, just kind of a flat way of describing it. But the savagery, too, of some of these young kids, that's something that they can also, I guess, indoctrinate into them.
Absolutely, and part of the idea of the training and the education that they get is to, you get a sense that the people that you're dealing with, the enemies, are not human, and that you are inculcated and in a very well thought out process to deaden the senses that you become where warfare, where fighting, where savagery, where beheadings, where executions, all of this is just part of the natural background of their growing up, and you're not frightened by it. That's just the way things are.
Is there anything that the international community can do to blunt this sort of thing?
With the communities outside of the areas that are controlled by ISIS and other areas, perhaps like in Afghanistan, there has to be the education and the outreach to families and to groups to make sure that their children don't follow in this path. In the areas that are controlled by ISIS, I don't see anything that really can be done because it's difficult enough to get in there, and they have complete control of what's going on, and they use terror as, although they don't see it that way, but they use terror as a way of keeping people under control. And part of the groups that they recruit from, they will either kidnap them or take them forcibly, and in others they indoctrinate the parents or ask the parents to volunteer their children to become part of these groups and to undergo the training. So it's very difficult to reach into them. The only solution at this point is really to keep ISIS isolated where it is and to push them back.
We don't have much time, but I do want to get your thoughts on this claim from Al-Qaeda. I've heard other analysts say, look, ISIL's getting the headlines, Boko Haram's getting the headlines. They're just claiming responsibility for this. There's no way to verify whether or not they're behind it. What's your thought?
They might have, but this has been going on for decades. And if you want to go back to, say, the Palestinian attacks against Israel since the 1960s, there would be attack and 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different groups would claim credit for the same attack. So, all of them, it's public relations, and we got to get credit for it, because if we get credit, then we get funding, we get support, we get volunteers. So this is nothing new.
We're going to leave it there. Mark Kagan, thanks so much for coming in. Your analysis spot on. Thanks so much.